You're looking at one of the most fascinating contradictions in modern military strategy. Today, we're exploring exactly why a legacy aircraft, one that's been heavily rumored for retirement for years now, is absolutely dominating asymmetric naval warfare in the Strait of Hormuz.
So, here's the $100 million question. For years, the U.S. Air Force has been itching to retire the aging A-10 Thunderbolt, or as we all affectionately know it, the Warthog. The goal? Free up the budget for shiny, fifth-generation stealth fighters like the F-35. But here's the catch. This older, slower, ground-attack jet is temporarily indispensable. It's out there right now, actively hunting down boats in one of the most critical naval choke points in the world. Why? Well, it literally all comes down to geography. The Strait of Hormuz is what experts call a literal coastal environment. Basically, it's tight, the waters are extremely shallow, and the environment heavily favors asymmetric threats. We aren't talking about tracking massive enemy destroyers out in the open ocean. We are talking about tiny, highly agile IRGC boats and swarms of one-way attack drones zipping out of hidden coastal inlets. Standard conventional naval forces genuinely struggle with this kind of erratic, unpredictable threat.
And when you put our modern F-35 stealth fighter head-to-head with a legacy A-10 for this specific job, the contrast is fascinating. The F-35 is a $100 million stealth marvel, no doubt about it, but it flies incredibly fast and incredibly high. If you were trying to track a tiny, agile boat swarming in a tight coastal environment, flying fast and high is actually a massive disadvantage. The A-10, though, it is literally built to get down in the mud. It flies low, and crucially, it can drastically slow down its flight speed. This lets pilots visually identify and engage these tiny, erratic targets right in the littoral zone.
Section 2, the tactical value of persistent Overwatch.
So how exactly does flying slow create such a massive strategic advantage? Well, one word: time. The A-10 possesses this incredible loiter time. Because it isn't burning through its fuel at supersonic speeds, it can just circle above the strait for hours on end. This is what we call persistent Overwatch. The A-10 doesn't just zoom in, drop a bomb, and bolt. It waits. It plays the long game, patiently waiting for those hidden coastal threats to poke their heads out of those inlets before initiating a strike.
Now, a key takeaway here is that the A-10 isn't just out there operating as some lone wolf. They form this deeply integrated, layered tactical network working side by side with Apache attack helicopters. So while the A-10s provide that persistent overwatch and heavy strike capability, the Apaches are right down there in the mix with them, hunting boats and intercepting those one-way attack drones. And the whole thing is tied together by vital intel and precise coordinates relayed constantly from ground reconnaissance.
All of this builds into a highly coordinated, step-by-step strike procedure. Step 1. Recon scans the area and pinpoints the enemy positions. Step 2. The A-10s move in, flying at extremely low altitudes, literally using the terrain itself to mask their approach from radar. Step 3. The strike. They can unleash their iconic cannons on lightly armored targets or drop guided munitions and Hellfire missiles on heavily armored movers. And finally, Step 4. They don't just pack up and go home. They remain on station, ready to respond instantly to any further resistance.
Section 3. Engineering built for survival.
Okay, let's shift gears from how the A-10 fights to the rugged engineering that actually lets it survive in these hostile environments. Let's break down exactly why this plane absolutely refuses to die. The strait is heavily defended by manpads, man-portable air defense systems, and intense small arms fire. To counter this, the A-10's airframe is primarily built from aluminum alloys with multiple independent beams running down the fuselage and wings. This means it can absorb significant structural battle damage and just keep on flying. It's a level of risk the military would never take with a $100 million stealth jet, but the Warthog, it's engineered to take the hit. 1,200. That number right there really puts this ruggedness into perspective. The A-10's cockpit is encased in a massive titanium armor structure that pilots affectionately call the bathtub. It weighs 1,200 pounds, which is about 540 kilograms. Combine that with bulletproof glass, and you've got defensive engineering that allows a pilot to take heavy impacts from ground fire in a tight coastal choke point and safely stay in the fight.
Section 4. The GAU-8 Avenger cannon.
You honestly can't explain the A-10 without talking about the gun that the entire aircraft was quite literally built around. 3,900. That is the staggering rounds per minute rate of fire this cannon pumps out. The GAU-8 Avenger is a 30mm cannon using a 7-barreled Gatling design, and the rotation of those barrels, it's powered by dual hydraulic motors producing an insane 77 horsepower. Originally, it fired even faster, but they dialed it back to 3,900 just to extend the life of the barrels. The sheer mechanical force of this system is mind-blowing.
Okay, The physics involved here are absolutely wild. The recoil of this gun is so powerful it generates 10,045 kilonewtons of force. To put that in perspective for a second, one of the A-10's TF-34 engines produces 9,065 pounds of thrust. The gun literally pushes back harder than a single engine pushes forward. Because of this massive force, the gun actually has to be mounted slightly off-center to the port side to balance the recoil so the plane doesn't drift off target while firing. They literally had to shove the front landing gear out of the way just to make room for it.
And why does it kick that hard? Well, look at the ammo. These aren't your standard bullets. We are talking massive, armor-piercing, incendiary rounds made with depleted uranium penetrators. Fired from over 1,000 meters away, these rounds will punch clean through 38 millimeters of solid steel. The aircraft holds up to 1,174 of these rounds in an enormous drum. And this is brilliant. It uses a linkless feed system that cycles the heavy spent casings back into the drum instead of ejecting them. It's ingenious because it stops the plane's center of gravity from shifting mid-flight, and it prevents the engines from sucking up dangerous flying debris.
Of course, surviving isn't just about taking a punch, it's about dodging them entirely. The A-10 is rigged with 360-degree radar warning receivers that alert the pilot the second a semi-active radar seeker locks onto them, instantly triggering automated flare countermeasures. Plus, the engine placement is incredibly tactical. Those TF-34 engines are mounted high up on the fuselage to avoid sucking in debris from rough runways. But even better, unlike traditional jets, these engines produce a relatively cooler, slower-moving exhaust. This massively reduces the aircraft's infrared signature, making it so much harder for heat-seeking missiles to lock on and track.
Remember that persistent Overwatch we talked about earlier? Here is exactly how that's possible. 11,000. Through a single-point refueling section, you can pump 11,000 pounds of fuel into the A-10's 4 compartmentalized, self-sealing fuel tanks. That is roughly the equivalent of filling up 20 standard school buses. This massive fuel reserve is absolutely the lifeblood of the A-10's legendary coastal loiter time.
And to actually maneuver all that weight effectively over the water, the Warthog relies on its aerodynamics, specifically these distinctive air brakes. They're these large panels that extend from the fuselage right behind the wings, and when deployed, they create massive drag. This is an absolutely indispensable tool because it allows the A-10 to transition rapidly from high-speed flight down to that vital, slow-speed maneuvering required for tight coastal engagements, all without losing its stability in the air.
Which brings us to our final thought today. As modern naval warfare rapidly pivots toward $100 million stealth fighters and autonomous drones, the A-10 sits right in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, proving that sometimes you don't need to fly faster or higher. Sometimes you just need rugged, brute force, purpose-built engineering. So will an aircraft like this ever truly become obsolete, or will there always be a place for the Warthog in the chaos of asymmetric combat? It's a fascinating paradox to consider. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.